In the world right now, we have more clothes than customers. So these clothes that come, even when they're thrifted, they have to end up somewhere.
How would you see second-hand in Kenya?
So there are two ways I look at it. Because you see, when in my first year students, we teach them circular fashion. And circular fashion is where you prolong the life of a garment. The fashion industry in Kenya is built on two sides. We have the thrift fashion, where there's the mitumba, everyone knows about the second-hand fashion. Then there's also the designers who started training and learning how to be designers.
Greetings everyone, welcome again. Made in Africa show that brings you true and original stories of Africans in the growing movement, highlighting the craftsmanship, creativity, entrepreneurial spirit of Africa designers, artisans, and businesses.
The design and the creating a piece. How would you see copy-paste?
When it comes to garments and trademarking and all this copywriting, first, copywriting is very expensive. You can't copyright each design.
In today's episode, where is Mary Mugure, known as Miss Mary by professional. She's a fashion designer and she's a teacher at the School of Fashion and Design based in Kenya. Miss Mary is also a fashion tutor and digital content creator.
When you think about sustainability and you think about, it has different things that you have to look at: the environment, social labor, governance.
So you are saying fashion industry in Africa is doing well?
It is doing well. It's growing. Certain initiatives such as Creative DNA, they even have a magazine where you can see these brands.
Between men and the women in Kikuyu, who really control the family?
It is the man, but it also depends on the region of Kikuyu.
Made in Africa show produced by NCBETHEBEST1 TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again in Made in Africa podcast. Today we have a very special guest as always. How are you today?
Hi, how are you, Celestine?
Yes, I'm very well. So welcome in Made in Africa podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Good. So before we go deeper, let our listeners know who is Mary.
Okay, so my name is Mary Mugure. However, my students call me Miss Mary. So I am a fashion tutor. I'm also a fashion designer, actually trained. So I started working in fashion about around 2016. So first I was working as a designer, and then I moved back into teaching.
Okay. That's very interesting. So you are really a fashion designer?
Yes, I am.
So you understand what you're talking about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, Mary, when did you start fashion designing?
Fashion, I started in 2011 when I was called to study fashion design and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So for the 4 years, I studied that degree. And afterwards, I worked in a textile and garments factory.
Okay.
For nearly 2 years, after which now I went into my own brand. And then afterwards, I started training to get a teaching certification, and then went now into teaching in 2023, last year, the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you went to school for fashion designing, like you're a professional fashion designer?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Professional.
So take us deeper. When was your first time you knew you were going to be a fashion designer?
Oh, I knew in high school, but I did not tell anyone. So many people thought I would go into STEM careers. So sciences, I was very good with that. So many people actually, if you ask my classmates, they thought I would do something to do with mathematics because I'm very proficient in that. Uh-huh. So they were all shocked when I applied because I didn't tell anyone that I was applying for fashion. Yeah, and when I was called, it's the only career that I saw that I could see a future with for me, but it actually started long before. So as a kid, my mom used to stitch for us. Like I used to see her stitch, and then I used to see the way she used to knit sweaters and all of that. It really intrigued me. And at the time, I used to insist that she buys me Barbie dolls so that I can dress them. So I remember playing with needles and all that. So when I looked back, I was like, oh, it started a long time ago. And my mom was also a teacher, so I've literally become her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your mom was a teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our listeners and the viewers, they want to let me be on their behalf because you are a fashion designer
Yes.
and now you are a teacher
Yes.
at School of Fashion and Design.
Yeah.
Someone who want to understand the picture of fashion industry in Kenya, yes, can you give us the picture of fashion industry in Kenya as a teacher? Actually, in our show, we haven't had a teacher. So we are happy to have a fashion teacher. So
Yeah.
give us a picture of fashion industry in Kenya.
So at the moment, the fashion industry in Kenya is built on two sides. We have the thrift fashion, where there's the mitumba. Everyone knows about the second-hand fashion that has been there since 1994. But the industry it started a long time ago. Before, in Moi's time, for example, fashion has been there. But then after liberalization, when he changed everything, so that's when the second-hand market came in. Then there's also the designers who started training and learning how to be designers, and they came into the market. We have we have Katush, Katungulu. They're some of the pioneers of the fashion industry. So when they started, we have some factories as well, textile and garments centers that are there till today that produce for local and also international brands. So at the moment, we have those three different sectors of fashion.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a very interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you see Made in Kenya currently?
Made in Kenya right now is very impressive because I can tell you that the artisans are honing their craft. So they're very good in what they do, the stitching qualities. I can talk of, for example, a brand like Sandstorm. When you look at the bags, the quality of leather that they use, that is Kenyan, and how till the final product. You look at the bag and the quality is good. This piece will last for long. You look at Katungulo, for example, you look at the quality of her garments. It's cotton that is from here, actually woven here. And you look at the clothes physically, they are very well made. We have different brands, Adele Dijak, when it comes to accessories. They're still made here. And when you touch them and then see, the quality is quite good. And that's why even when you look at the price point, it's quite high. Yeah.
Talking about the price, people, they say, customers or clients, they complain Made in Kenya is expensive, even Made in Africa. Why do you think?
I think when one factor is the second-hand market, because those pieces are thrifted and the price is low. Okay. And then you see that also the living standards, the classes that we have in Kenya, majority of people cannot afford high-end clothes. And it's not because they wouldn't want to. It's also because they have to balance what income are they making, how much will they spend on clothing, and then food and school and all that. So to them, fashion is, when they look at Made in Kenya, to them, it's a luxury item where when I reach a certain class, that's when I can afford it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kenya is a big country.
Yeah, true.
Our listeners, they're from different continents. So where are you from in Kenya?
I am from just the outskirts of Nairobi. I was actually born in Nairobi, but I live in Ruiru.
Okay.
So that's where my parents live. So I was born in a coffee research institute. So yeah.
Okay.
So that's where I grew up. It's just in the outskirts of Nairobi. Yeah.
Where did you went to school? From high school?
High school, I went to a school still in the central region. It's called St. Francis Girls Mangu. And then after that, I went to Kenyatta University. That's when I did my bachelor's. And then after that, for teaching, there's a school in Gigiri. So that's when I got my diploma in technical trainer education. Yeah.
Okay. So how are you being a teacher? Because some people, they say, according to our viewers, maybe they will see the pictures we post on our social media after the show.
Yeah.
But you are not, if someone look at you, you are not, you look young, let me say.
Yeah, I look young. But it's until, I think, as long as you know what you're doing and you have the experience, the moment you enter class, my students actually respect me. Because, most of them are from high school. They have not really entered the industry at all. So as long as you know what you're doing, you know what you're teaching, you've been in the industry. Once, the moment you start that class, they listen and they're like, oh, okay. And immediately it just becomes an easy thing to do. So yes, I may look young, but I have the experience. Yeah.
So the student, let's talk about the student.
Yeah.
When you see the student
Yeah.
as a fashion designer, how do you see the future of fashion industry in Kenya? By looking at, I came in your graduation.
Yeah.
I talked to a few students who were very excited. To you as a teacher who were with them, how do you see them as the future fashion industry in Kenya?
I see so much hope in the industry right now based on the students, because I've seen them grow, and also they start from research. They know what to do from the research point to the final product. They've learned in school how the industry works, because for us we do work related qualification. So we put a scenario for you where you are either an intern for a fashion brand or something. You think of yourself in that space, and then we make you design thinking about that scenario that you're in. So our students, even when you saw the graduation, some of them, like when you think of, I remember Angel's collection, the final collection. There's also Warren. These are students that when you think, even when you look back in their collection, their research, everything that they've done for their collection, it's purposeful. And you just know that they will make it in the industry. They love what they do. A majority, actually, most of our students who come into it is because they want to do fashion. So as long as they follow the process and they abide by it, and even they love it, you just know that they'll make it in the industry. Yeah.
So you mentioned the area about the second hand. So when you look second hand in Kenya, how do you see second hand in Kenya?
So there are two ways I look at it, because you see, when in my first year students, we teach them circular fashion, and circular fashion is where you prolong the life of a garment. So with circular fashion, even these thrifted garments, someone has to wear them. I remember when I went to a public lecture recently, they were talking about the way that we have in the world right now, we have more clothes than customers. So these clothes that come, even when they're thrifted, they have to end up somewhere. Like, if we cannot dump them, we need to prolong that life. So with circular fashion, then secondhand has a good thing. However, we need to know, there's the side where us as designers, people feel that it actually depletes their market. So I'm talking about the fact that you will want to sell your product to a client. They will see that it's 3,500, but they will tell you, I can buy a similar dress 100 shillings. So they think on that factor. But I feel like the secondhand market, to be honest, I know it's there to stay, but we now need to see how can we balance the industry right now, where the things that we produce locally can also be taken in, like people can buy locally, but still we grow that local industry, and we balance within the industry. Because if we say we're going to remove the second-hand industry, before I was like that when I was in school. Then when you leave school and you experience, you start realizing, okay, if we say we'll remove second-hand market right now, then all those people, are you ready to absorb them in the factories? Will they even fit within that? Do they want to do that? There's so many factors to think about. So there needs to be either a balance, or as we shift, we need to first grow the local industry before we can now think about how to reduce secondhand clothing. Yeah.
Talking about I know there are some countries like Rwanda, Uganda, they banned the second hands, and there are so many complaints about people who are doing those jobs. What should we do now?
Yeah. I remember in 2013, I was in Ethiopia for 2 months. So there they had banned. So you're seeing that secondhand clothes are actually illegal. When you see someone selling, it's actually they're hiding. They cannot sell. And I noticed that you can actually thrive with the local industry, but there are certain structures that need to be built before you actually now ban it.
But sorry to interrupt you. That's the thing. The steel made in Africa is expensive than made in China. Even than second hand. Do you think that's why many people, they still go to the second hand?
Okay, made in Africa is expensive when you look at it, but also most of these brands are trying to be local, to be sustainable. So locally produced, the carbon negative thing. For like yesterday I was at Lalibia, where you look at, they're producing, they're using local weaved cotton, they're doing hand dyes, botanical chemical dyes, and then you see that they're trying to do the work here. Unfortunately, you notice that there are certain factors that end up with our local products being expensive. When we look at the cost of making a garment, I think I understood this when I was working as a designer. The cost of making a garment, we have the labor. You have to think of the labor. You have to think of energy. There's so many factors, the trims, the raw materials, all these things. When you add them up together, and if you're doing fast, sustainable, ethical fashion, the costs, because you have to think of social labor, pay your tailor what is rightfully for that garment. How long does it take to produce that garment? All those raw materials, which factory are you going to work with? So when you look at it, you find that by the time the garment is done, it cannot cost the same way as a second-hand garment. There is no way, and then still that person has to make profit. And the reason why you find in Kenya they're a bit high, because also the energy costs are very high to produce. So unfortunately, and still they have to put their profit, so you find that the garment has that high cost that people look at.
It makes sense. So still, our listeners and the viewers, they have know a little bit about you. There is a question they asked one of our speakers, one of our guests, the women from their tribe, because Kenya has a different tribes, and our listeners, they may also wonder. So take us a bit about in your culture, like what makes unique women in your culture?
So I'm from the Kikuyu tribe. And the Kikuyu, when I look at women from my tribe, I know that they're very resilient. They're very hardworking. You find that even if let's say in the household where you look at, maybe someone will be a housewife and the husband will be out, you find that most of our women still try to make a living on their own, regardless of whether their life is comfortable or not. When I look, when it comes to, when you want to know them beyond, is it the culture or the traditions? You want to know about our traditions?
Yes. Because when you ask that question, it's actually they say Kikuyu women, you are very hard worker.
That's true. Yeah.
You make a lot of money. So between men and the women in Kikuyu, who really control the family?
It is the man, but it also depends on the region of Kikuyu, because you will find that Kikuyus from Kiambu are different from Kikuyus from Nyeri. So there is a difference. So you find that it's not about the tribe as well. It's also about the region they live in and the type of the way the men are there at the moment. So, but regardless, the women, all of them, I've noticed there's just that hardworking characteristic about them. They're very hardworking. They also like you find that many businesses, even out here, you'll find a woman is running, a Kikuyu woman has her own business. So they are very hardworking.
What is favorite food or dishes do you make in Kikuyu?
It's called irio. Irio is mokimo.
Okay.
Mokimo is a signature food for us.
Mokimo, okay.
Yeah, so it's just mashed potatoes with maize and sometimes beans, but mostly mashed potatoes with maize and also pumpkin leaves. So mashed together. That's what we call mokimo, or we call it irio. Then there's also githeri. Githeri is a signature piece of Kikuyu.
Okay.
That's a food that we love.
Yes.
Yeah.
For our listeners and viewers who don't understand what is the githeri,
it is a mix of beans and maize stew with, of course, water, a lot of soup. That's our signature for our food. Yeah.
So, and what is your favorite food?
For me, funny enough, my favorite is just traditional, what are they called? Traditional leaves when it comes to kale. Traditional kale, with chicken and ugali. That's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's your favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, actually, I don't know the numbers. Which tribe has many people, many citizens in Kenya?
It is the Kikuyu. That's the first one. Then we have Luya. From there, I'm not so sure. I don't want to give the wrong facts, but I know the Kikuyu are the most at the moment, and then Luya is the second most populated. Yeah.
Okay. So, what the secret does your mother tell women in your culture in Kikuyu? Like, there's some secrets. Many parents, they already have secrets.
Secrets? I don't think We have a secret, really, but it's more of like, it's not really a secret, but a characteristic. When you look at Kikuyu women, it's more of, not even the women, just when you're a Kikuyu, they expect you to be hardworking,
Yeah.
to not just expect something to be handed to you. You have to work for it. Yeah, you decide you're starting your business, but you have to work hard to earn money and all that. There's that saying where Kikuyus love money. No, we want good life. Yeah.
The reason I ask you that question, it is
Yes.
because in Samukarija, for example, let me talk about where I came from in Rwanda. Women are taught to respect husband.
Yeah.
That's one of the secrets the parents like say, you have to respect your husband, be able to cook. Yeah.
So I think that is not even a tribe thing, rather than I think it just depends with the family you grow up in, the lifestyle. Right nowadays, it's more of lifestyle that determines whether you will, even people getting married or even having kids. The life has changed from traditional. The traditional or our cultures are not really determining the future of people, but rather the lifestyle that they grow up in now. Because unlike before, where we used to live in the villages and people had a certain way of doing things, so here right now you find that you live as a nuclear family, maybe in the towns, okay, the way your parents raise you, that's how you'll end up. So it's more of a lifestyle than a cultural thing.
Yeah. So talking about the culture, at the school.
Yeah.
By the way, I am looking forward to talk to your director today, to director of school, and I'm looking for because there are questions I cannot ask you. I want to ask her specifically. So, what about the culture diversity as a teacher now? Our listeners now, we are trying to go through all the questions so you can know you, who is Miss Mary in both sides as a fashion designer. How do you see culture in your school?
So again, culture, I say that students are diverse in the school. So you find that we do not just have Kenyan students, we have students from all over Africa. So you find that some of them, when they're doing their projects, they may choose, because you're told to choose an inspiration that you want for your collection. So some of them linger to their own culture. Some of them even go to other cultures to try and build an inspiration and to build their collection from that. Okay. So when it comes to culture, as much as many may not really dress, especially in Kenya, you won't really find people dressing as per their culture, but they may build like their collections based on either their culture or another person's culture. So you'll find maybe my collection was inspired by the Kikuyu tribe or the Luo tribe, like that. Okay. So they kind of celebrate culture through their collections. Yeah.
Oh, so the school, you host different nationalities.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah, different nationalities.
So now our listeners and viewers, they know you, even though we didn't ask you. You said you travel.
Yeah.
So
just a little.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When you travel, what is the most thing you see? You want to see when you travel?
I want to see, of course, the places that I go to, and also the people. Seeing the difference, because sometimes you will find that most times when I travel, I've seen that I do go to the museums within the country. So I've not really traveled that much outside the country. So it's just Ethiopia and Tanzania. So when I got the chance to go to Ethiopia, I made sure I would go to their museums just to see the garments and also to see their historical dressing and cultural things. Yeah. So that's one thing I usually do. It helps even with to know the different tribes and also like where did they start to be where they are. Tanzania, there I just went for Swahili Fashion Week. Was showcasing at the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I asked about the culture at school is because like Kenya also has different tribes.
Yes.
So do you have many Kenyan students there?
Yes, we have. Majority of the students are Kenyan. Then you find that another number of the students are now from outside. So Rwanda, Congo, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, So they're from different countries, Ethiopia, Eritrea. So it always depends, because sometimes you'll find, yes, there's an Ethiopian student, next time maybe an Eritrean student. So we've gotten students from, over time, they've been from many countries all over Africa. Yeah.
When you look at fashion industry in Africa, so how do you see the future of fashion industry in Africa as a teacher?
I see there's so much, it's very inspiring, because right now I see that it's quite hopeful, because when you look at the industry right now, everything is shifting to Africa, where people are even coming to see ideas from here. So here we do things differently. And then when you incorporate our cultures, which are quite rich, it just explains why when you see the collections from here, they are quite diverse. There's a uniqueness about our looks. And I've seen it with different collections from different brands all over Africa. So there's just, when you look at Mcensal, there's Papa Odong. I was looking at the way they create their pieces. It's
So
quite
those
different.
those are Kenyan fashion designers.
No. One is, I don't know how to spell his name, because it's Max Osa, like Maxhosa. That's a South African brand, quite famous. And then you look at Papa Odong, I think he's from Nigeria. I saw one of his pieces at the Circle Art Gallery. And when you look at such pieces, if they're so well done, and then we have the beading collections, like from Poisa Pashambela. That's a Kenyan designer.
Okay.
How she works with beads. And you look at the way we do our collections, it's quite different from the Western industry. And there's just some uniqueness about our pieces. That's why even in the recent years, many even celebrities are dressing with African brands.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the in thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talking about the design and the creating a piece, how do you see copy paste? Because there are fashion designers who've been used online, and you take picture of your creation.
Yeah.
You, after posting it, someone goes and then change the button and put it on the right side and just say, "This is my creation." So how do you see that? Yeah.
So there's a name for it. I'm forgetting the name right now. But
Okay.
the industry now, the fashion industry all over the world, the issue with that is you notice that it didn't even start from here. Some people, like, you will see it's Gucci, but the label has just been changed. There's something different. There's Louis Vuitton, such brands where you see someone changes. So that has been happening a lot, because there's a flaw where if I change a small aspect of your design, I can say it's mine. So if I look at your shirt and I decide, I will not put sleeves and I'll just leave it like that, maybe I've used the same print, you'll find that someone can claim that that is their garment. So people take advantage of that, and then the law is not well stipulated where I can actually sue you when it comes to garments and trademarking and all this copywriting. First, copywriting is very expensive. You can't copyright each design. So as much as maybe if you have influence, that's when you will win such an issue of someone taking your design. So it's usually more of that's we have a flaw, especially with the law when it comes to trademarking and actually claiming this is my piece. But however, in Kenya, there is a law that was passed that if you actually can prove that something is yours, so from inspiration, you can show that this was my piece, but someone actually copied it and did the exact thing, you actually will be hard, and actually the person who did that, they can take action against them.
Okay.
But also, it depends with when you share that garment, also have the build up, the idea generation until you got to the final. So when someone takes your piece, you can prove that it was actually your thing from the research till the end.
So you are saying fashion industry in Africa is doing well?
It is doing well. It's growing.
It's growing.
Yes, it's growing. Of course, there are challenges, but it is growing. And I know that even in future, it will keep growing. I don't think it will descend. Because when you look at the industry, even the people who come to fashion shows nowadays, you find like Swahili Fashion Week when I was there, it was 2021. There was a scout from Christian Dior. Big brands are coming to see what are you people making. So just from that, you're seeing that even our pieces they're either imitating the cultures, they're looking for inspiration within Africa. So I even urge my students to use the inspiration from here, because this is the untapped market, the untapped space when it comes to research for inspiration. This is the space that you can build a very nice collection at the moment.
Ryan, you mentioned about recycle. We talk about the
A circular fashion.
Yes, circular fashion. Yes, thank you. How do you see sustainability in the fashion industry?
At the moment, it's growing, but it's still behind. When you think about sustainability and you think about, it has different things that you have to look at: the environment, social labor, governance. So depending on the country you're from in Africa, certain things are either being put the way they're supposed to, or certain things, now that comes into politics and other things where you as a designer cannot control what's happening. So when I talk about, one thing is social labor, I don't see people talking about it a lot, but it's a very big deal. Because based on my experience, I've seen tailors who do really good work, but they're not compensated their right the way they're supposed to. I've seen them create collections that you look at, and these collections are worn luxury, ready to wear. But the compensation is the same as someone who just knows how to stitch a sleeve. So you're in the same place, but one knows how to do high-end fashion, another on mass production. So they cannot stitch a full garment.
Yeah.
High-end, they know how to interpret a design fully, but they are paid the same.
So you were saying the payment, like the labor,
that the social labor, there is an exploitation of artisans in Kenya.
I think that is that is a very interesting and a very good point. Because sustainability in fashion should start where
it's made. There's so many steps to sustainability. When you look at it's actually part of it, social labor. So when you look at it, you're supposed to, of course, you avoid using chemicals in your production process. You reduce the carbon footprint. So instead of buying your raw materials in another country, buy them in your own country or maybe the neighboring country. Because remember, there's the movement of those garments. It will use fuel. Okay, you're just trying to reduce that carbon footprint. So the like yesterday, so Lalibia, that's a fully made in Kenya brand because they source from here, from the raw material to the final. But some brands you find that they say they're sustainable, and mostly it's international where they say they're sustainable, but they're not really sustainable when you follow the process. One, their production maybe is on the other side of the continent. They do not use these high-end natural fibers because that's organic fibers is a big part of sustainability. They may say they use that, they don't. You find also some of them have been accused of saying they're sustainable, but we find some of their clothes, their plastic clothing dumped in landfills here in Dandora. For people to understand sustainability, or rather ethical fashion, there are things that you need to get right for you to say that your brand is sustainable or ethical. Okay.
Talking about sustainability, I met a few people who trying to take second hand and they upcycle.
Yeah.
I don't understand that system as for now.
Yeah.
I travel in many countries, let me say, even in America where most the second hands came from,
Yeah.
You go on the street, actually they are these big on the street, big dumping. Like if you are done, go put there. They don't even sell them. Like you have clothes, you don't need them and you no longer need them. You take them and throw in that
it's like donating,
yes. Then there will be a big truck will pass and they take everything. How do you see that process of changing the second hand into something wearable again?
That process
it
helps. Because one thing about sustainability, you should also prolong the life of a garment. So as opposed to it being thrown away, we are avoiding putting our garments in landfills. So if I can do something to maybe it was a shirt, but maybe for whatever reason, I may not want it as a shirt anymore. So I may change it into something else. Or it's either you just prolong the life. There's a brand like Suave Kenya. They used to pick those secondhand clothes and they turn them into bags. So you find that there are different brands doing this. There's also Africa Collect Textile, where they tell you to donate when you're done with your clothes. You just go and put in bins. It's in Kenya, it's also in Nigeria. So when you're done with your clothes,
I remember I met them at the yes.
So I like what they do because they pick your clothes and then they may turn it into a rag and something quality that you can use within the house. So when we come to upcycling and even with sustainability. Now, it depends with how are you doing it, because recycling is actually costly and it uses a lot of water. If we decide we're recycling fibers and all that, actually still we'll use a lot of water. And we also want to avoid draining energy, because that's also a part of sustainability. Can you use the least amount of resources? That's part of it, because in the production process, like for a cotton t-shirt, uses a lot of water. So in the whole process of sustainability, we are trying to reduce the overuse of natural resources. Yeah, so the fact that we've already these clothes are already there, let us prolong their life as opposed to dumping them. Also, I would advise that even from the beginning, let's use the right raw materials, because plastic clothing, when you polyesters, all these things, they are ending up in landfills, sorry. So you find that, like here in Dandora, that landfill, it's the biggest in Kenya. You find that plastic clothing is a lot there. And you find that once these bills come in, they cannot be sold, some of these things. So they're just thrown immediately. And why is that? They're not even organic fibers from the beginning.
Yeah.
So unless we start again from the beginning, build our raw materials. When you're coming to cotton, tencel, wool, like we need to have, it's like going back to before, because when you look back in history, we used to use natural fibers.
Yeah.
Then we moved on to trying to make it fast fashion. We call it fast fashion. We need to go back to slow fashion. Slow fashion is very sustainable.
That makes me to ask you a question.
Yes.
As a teacher,
Yes.
when you teach, don't know if that's a part of the curriculum, which I will ask Mrs. Sally.
Yeah.
I hope she's listening to. So, how do you bring a little bit of Africa? Because actually, someone was saying, people made in Rwanda, made in Kenya, but some of these countries, we don't have our own fabric. Then some people in Rwanda said, like, oh, we have a kitenge. Somebody said, like, no.
That's the...
So how do you see, as Africans, we be able to create our own fabrics? There's some countries like Ghana, Nigeria trying to come up with Ethiopia, you said.
Yeah.
So let's say East Africa. What's wrong with East Africa?
It's not that we do not have our own fabric. It's just this weaving process. Because it's being done, we do have like artisan weavers, Kenya, for example. You find that we do have the fabrics. We also do have Eri silk. I know of Eri silk here in Kenya, and there are people who are actually creating the fabrics themselves. But the silk that we have, for example, Eri silk, in the process that it's made, it will not look like the soft silk that you usually see, the other silk. And also the machinery is what affects us. So you find we do not have also enough, like we do not have the right machinery to process to weave in the quality that we will want at this point. So yes, handlooms are there, people are creating nice things. However, still we need to build on that, the machinery, but also we do not have enough raw materials. Yes, we are producing at the moment, we've started to grow, because Kenya, for example, Rivertex was reopened. So the cotton that is being grown in Kisumu, it's there, but it's not enough to the level of sustaining that textile industry. But we do have fabrics that are made here. However, since people got used to the second-hand market, if you look at the quality of the fabrics, people love that soft feel garment, okay? So when you look at that, and then you look at maybe a garment that is made from here, maybe the colors and all that, getting used to the way those garments are made because of the fabrics, it becomes a challenge to now convince this person to wear a different type of texture and even color. The sheen is different.
Yeah. Talking about that, do you have any message to send to African governments? You have experience, a professional teacher, professional fashion designer. So what message can you send according to that matter?
I think they should support the industry more, because okay, there are treaties, yes, that were signed that now it's becoming hard for them to move out of those. But I think there are certain sides where they should work on, especially enforcing that social labor, people are paid the way they're supposed to be paid. Building the industries that are already there. Supporting local designers when it comes to manufacturing, because that's a very big issue where you find it's very costly for you to produce here in Kenya. If you go to a factory, it's very costly. Yet, when you look at, I can tell you of so many brands, international brands that are made here in our export processing zones.
Yeah.
I've seen them being made here. So we do have artisans who can make those things. So when I'm telling you, Calvin Klein, made here.
Okay.
Tommy Hilfiger, here, there's a factory. Van Hosen here, Levi's, one of the best jeans, it's made here, just very close to where I stay. So you find that we do have the capacity to actually create good quality garments, because this is actually usually a circle when you think about it. Most production here in our EPZs is for those secondhand that you're thinking about. So initially they are made, we export them. Export processing is just for export products. So those garments are exported. When they are done, the way you were saying, they are donated back and they come back. So it's actually a circle that people don't know, but they are made here. Many things are made here. We do have the capacity to produce very good quality garments. Yeah.
So that's very interesting. And Kenya has been hosting a lot of manufacturer industries.
Yeah.
However, some fashion designers, they have no idea what's going on. We are glad that you are here, you are talking to them, and they also go to your social media, Instagram, and reach out to you, talk to the teacher, Miss Mary. So, Miss Mary, now, as a fashion designer, how is promotion? Like promotion, you find, how do you see promotion of fashion designers in Kenya?
I feel it could be better. It's starting to grow, actually. In the recent year, like 2023, that's when I've seen a change where people are actually interested in seeing what's being made here and actually promoting their products to the local market rather than outside. So, but I feel that the media should do more. But there's also the fact of clicks, where you find that information has always been staying within a certain group of people. So for the longest time, you find that many people don't know about these brands. Even my students, I used to get shocked because I ask them about a brand and they don't know it's a real brand here. And then I tell them that there are certain brands made in Kenya by Kenyan designers. So I feel this is also, the brands themselves do try to promote themselves. However, the media can help us to promote these brands a bit more. But I know that it's growing because I've seen there are certain things that are certain initiatives, such as Creative DNA. They even have a magazine where you can see these brands. So it is growing, and I'm hopeful for the future of that industry.
So send a message to people who think you should promote media.
Specifically?
Generally.
I think media should promote. Influencers actually do promote. So if you look at, some influencers are very big on wearing local brands. Stylists, I've seen some stylists who are very big in local garments. But I do feel that if you can tell a friend, like if you know about a brand, don't keep the information to yourself if someone is looking. Because I've met a musician in Kenya who was saying that when she used to look for brands to dress her because she wants to have different garments. However, she wasn't finding. So right now she's actually starting to make her own clothes. So I feel there's so much at our disposal right now because social media. We have YouTube, we have Instagram, TikTok. There's so much, and people are posting, brands are posting their products. So I feel that that's why I'm going into that direction with my tiny vlogs on TikTok and Instagram to just make people aware that these brands actually exist. These are the types of products they're showing. If there is an exhibition, if there is a coming fashion show, just go and see and maybe tell a friend to show up also.
So as a fashion designer, do you have a message you want to send it to Kenyan fashion designer according to what you see? When I say according to what you see, you told me how you see Kenya fashion industry in the upcoming years. So what message do you have for Kenyan fashion designers? I
think for Kenyan fashion designers, if you're choosing to be a sustainable or ethical fashion brand, I feel that that's the way to go because that's the way they decide that fashion is going all over the world. So I'm hoping that they will focus on being sustainable as much as possible and also to buy local products, like buy raw materials from here. Do your research. Do as much. It may take time, but do your research. Find out where can I buy, where's the best place to buy woven fabrics, and also production. I will also say, because this doesn't just affect designers, I also say that these textile and garment factories that produce here to try and support also the local brands because they struggle when it comes to production.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them don't want to do, there's this thing we call minimum runs in factories. So you find that they can only produce for you 20 pieces, or the least they can produce is 100 pieces of the same garment. But you find that our designers want to produce in factories. That's a big issue for them. They are not able to produce the way they will want because the costs are too high for them. So if there's a way that the government can work with textile and garment factories to find a way for local designers to produce at a fair cost that does not also affect their product, they are a sustainable way to produce and for it to be done here, because a lot of them also do end up doing their production overseas. So I know that's an issue, because when it comes to production, there's so many factors that are holding us back. But I know that if we can work on maybe reducing the cost of energy, because that's one of the biggest issue in Kenya, it can really help designers to produce at a fairer cost, but still be able to pay their workers well.
So, Miss Mary, thank you very much for being with us in this episode.
Yes.
Can you tell our viewers and listeners where they can find you? Because you are doing a great job promoting fashion designers. You're also a fashion designer and you are a professional teacher, fashion designer. So can you tell us where can they find you? Yes.
Thank you. So you can find me on TikTok, Miss Mary _/254, and also in Instagram it's the same, Miss Mary 254. I try to do short vlogs. I also post of upcoming events in fashion, especially here in Kenya, and as well as around East Africa. So you can find me in both TikTok and Instagram, Miss Mary 254.
So thank you so much, Miss Mary.
Thank you.
We hope to see you in the next episodes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening our episode. See you next time with your host Celestina Wirema.